Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, there's been a tug of war between bosses and employees about going back to work. What's the impact on commercial office space? That story next with an international expert. Just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team. And the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
We're broadcasting from Lincoln Center, and before COVID, there were some 5,000 people who came to this building. At the throes of COVID, it was something like 300. I think the census is up to maybe 2,000, but it's not nearly where it was before COVID. To talk about the changing nature of office space is Roy Reis. He's the Senior Vice President of Cresa, Dallas. Thanks for coming on the show.
It's good to be on.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk about that, this back-to-work struggle. What are you seeing on the front line?
Well, look, I think you got to talk about work. I think everyone always talks about office, just office, and what is happening with office. But if you look at it, why do we even have offices in a 9-to-5 in the first place? It's
Right.
Henry Ford, right? When he invented the Model T for an assembly line, I think that was in 1920.
Yes.
And so many companies still operate like it's 1920, Jeff. And so what I think companies realize is, and what employees want, is that they want a different work schedule. They don't want to sit in an hour of traffic
Yes.
and then show up to work, drink out of the coffee machine, chit chat about last night's game. At 10:30, get a text message about lunch. See, I'm not used to this. I'm looking at the wrong camera. See,
It's all good. It's all good.
But if you look at it, every single employee is tired of that normal 9-to-5, and we've seen a revolt with employees. You saw where Apple said everyone needs to come back after Labor Day, and what happened was all the employees signed petitions. And so I think you have this tug of war right now between employers and employees. And the biggest question is not just returning to the office. I think employees want to come back to the office. I think people realize that they're better together. But the biggest challenge is we want something different.
And your company exclusively represents tenants. Tell me why that's important.
So look, if you look at if you just look at business as a whole, most major companies have rolled up and bought other companies in other industries. The same is true in commercial real estate. And most of those commercial real estate companies are big publicly traded companies where 84% of their revenue is brought in through buildings, through landlord leasing, so owning the building, leasing the building, managing the building, the property maintenance of the building, 84% of their revenue. Only 16% of the revenue is actually brought from the tenant. But if you look at the tenant's the ultimate customer, because without the tenant paying rent or the company paying rent, this building has no value.
And so you really want an advocate on your side, and Cresa is a huge company. Like, you guys are all over the globe, is that right?
That's right. So Cresa in North America has over 50 offices, call it more than just the NFL cities. And then we've got a partnership with Knight Frank that spans across the globe. So when we represent companies, we're not just representing them here in Dallas-Fort Worth, but literally, Australia, China, Africa, you name it, we've done transactions there.
We found a great overview video. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
Cresa's culture is unique. The people here have chosen to be here, have chosen to be part of this company, have chosen to be an owner in the company, and we've gone out of our way to create a place that we want to come to work every day and do our best work for our clients.
What I've seen in the short time here and just talking with different advisors across the company, doesn't matter how many deals you close, how much money you made last year, we're here to have a good time. We're here to do right by our clients. We're here to make a living. We're here to have fun. The culture, the collaboration across the offices, and the connections that have been made in this short while has been incredible. And I'm excited for that to continue to grow.
I decided to join Cresa because of the fact that I believed in the tenant rep model. The tenant-only platform was what I felt best fit with how I service my clients.
The team dynamic at Cresa is strong. Not just a team in Portland, but a team in Portland, in Denver, in Chicago, in South Florida, and in California, across the country, and then also globally.
You've got your boutique, local, corporate real estate companies, and you've got your big, global, behemoth, full-service corporate real estate companies. And Cresa fits right there neatly in the middle. We're this small, kind of mid-sized company with big company resources.
I think it is a very collegial, very entrepreneurial culture. I think we look at ourselves as one big team as opposed to divisions or silos.
My experience since joining Cresa has been, it's just been a lot of fun. I enjoy everybody that I work with. We like to think differently, and we're really great about collaborating. I love all of my team members. We all work really well together. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses, and we use that to our advantage to put teams together that are going to best serve the client.
My favorite thing about what I do is I get to learn something new every single day. We get to learn about companies and what their pain points are, what their success stories are, companies that are growing, companies that are expanding. And that's exactly what we're doing at Cresa. We're growing and expanding.
And one of the things I love about your company is you're not trying to force people into much larger office space than they actually need.
No.
In fact, most of your clients are trying to scale down, and you're all about that. Is that right?
That's right. So pre-COVID, we mentioned that most companies were about 15% inefficient. But the number one question we always ask a company when we go meet with them, and I've been asking this pre-COVID for probably 5+ years now, is why do you have an office? And everybody 5 years ago would go, well, I have to have an office. What do you mean, why do you have an office? Well, you're trying to promote culture, brand, community, collaboration. You're trying to do something with that office. The office is just a tool. It's no different than a copy machine, right? And so what we've done is, why do you have an office? Well, then how do you utilize that office to promote what you're doing? And that'll tell you what you need. But if you look at most real estate organizations, the first question they ask you is, what do you need? What do you want? In fact, I was just with a company on Tuesday, and they said that they needed 10,000 square feet. And the broker, the real estate representative, who's a fine real estate representative, printed off a packet and said, hey, here's your options. And my first question was, well, why 10,000 feet? So I think all great, conversations with our clients start with ask why.
Yes, and at the end of the day, you can save your clients a bunch of money.
Absolutely.
By maybe saying, hey, instead of 10,000 feet, how about 7? Because, most companies are inefficient anyway. You were telling me before the show, before COVID, it was 15%.
15%.
Bloated, is that right?
Now it's 40 to 50% easily.
Wow.
And so when you start talking to these companies about their space, and the other thing is you kind of hit the nail on the head, like save them money. Well, maybe it's not about saving money. The second most expensive cost for any company is at least their employees. Sometimes it's research and development with other organizations, but employees are your most costly expense. Real estate typically makes up between 3% and 5%. So maybe it's not looking at the real estate as an expense, but rather a strategic asset.
Yes.
For example, our company, we decided to spend more money on rent and move our office from a Class A office building, which was gorgeous, to the Star in Frisco. Why? Because we wanted to create an experience not just for our employees, but for our customers, and we've seen a huge drive on business because of that. So I think it's not always about looking at it as an expense, but it's a strategic asset.
And the DNA of your company is really employee-centric. I know that you're always on the best places to work list.
That's right.
We're going to put up a headline here.
That's
right. It seems like you've been on the DBJ list for several years, and I think some D Magazine awards. That's got to feel good.
Look, great companies have great leaders, and great leaders recruit other great people, and then they pay them well. I mentioned Henry Ford. Did you know that Henry Ford, the reason he recruited the best employees was he paid him 30% more than everyone else, than they were able to buy his car. And so at Cresa, we've got great leaders that not only care about us, but pay us well, which takes care of our families. They put us in the best environments to be successful. They give us the best tools to be successful, which ultimately then we go out and do what? We service our community and our companies, and the companies we represent are successful. And guess what happens? It's just this evolving process.
I love it. We've got some pictures from your Facebook of your employees, and it's different shots. Here a few years ago, you guys holding up the best places to work list. Tell me the kinds of people that you're recruiting to work with.
So we have a saying in our office, we're never looking to fill vacancies, but when we meet somebody that we can't live without, we find a spot for them. Every single time. And we've, like Darren Woodson is a partner at the company. Cool. Some people might not know Darren Woodson, but Darren Woodson's the all-time leading tackler for the Dallas Cowboys, 3-time Super Bowl champion. And Darren Woodson made a change from kind of doing this right here, sitting behind the microphone at ESPN, to commercial real estate. We have a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. We have former professional athletes. We have former college athletes. The people that are at our organization are usually high-functioning, high-performing, highly competitive people that have one thing in common. They know how to work on a team. They know how to win as a team, which is important. We don't want just people that are on a team that have lost.
Right.
We want winners, and we go out and hire winners.
And I love it. It's so important now because we hear about quiet quitting, where people are just kind of mailing it in. That's not your team. That's not my team.
No.
What's the secret to surrounding yourself with winners?
Well, first of all, let's go back to the quiet quitting a little bit. Like, what in the world is quiet quitting? Like, how can you imagine someone sitting up here at the Jeff Crilley show and not doing anything? Like, wouldn't you be able to find them out and fire them pretty quick?
Absolutely.
Because I think people talk about firing is a bad thing. Well, for something to be healthy, let's look at biology. Let's look at a plant or a tree. We know that you've got to prune, that you've got to cut.
Yes.
It's healthy. That's why I think sometimes, even if you look at this economy, if we go through a recession, that might be healthy in a lot of ways. It's a cycle of life. And I think if we don't have the right people on board, they get off real quick. We have we call it boys in the boat. The boys in the boat that went and competed in the Olympics against Hitler in front of Germany. And we have a mural in our office in our conference room, and everybody has to be on the boat rowing. And if you're not in the boat rowing, we're gonna get you off.
Well, something that I saw on your LinkedIn page really caught my eye. You described yourself as a connector, a teacher, and a lifelong learner. Right. Talk about that. Why did you put that up there?
Look, from a connector, look at where I am today. In fact, Jeff and I met. I was at, I think, Success, North Dallas Success. You're speaking in the morning. And Jeff says this comment, which I absolutely love. Raise your kids to be go-getters, but to live as go-givers. And I go, I like that guy. I connected with you. We've connected on LinkedIn. We've stayed in touch. We're a part of the same social club, the country club, which I'll see you tonight after tennis. Please excuse my sweating. I'm coming off a hard lesson. And when we talk about lifelong learner, I'm always reading. I was actually not one of the best students in high school. I went to junior college my freshman year. I made a 4.0 there. I then transferred to SMU, worked my way into the business school. And I learned that I had to have a growth mindset, which there's a great book that Carol Dweck, a Stanford psychologist, talks about. Always be learning, always be growing. But with that learning and growing, it's not only reading books, but it's pursuing great people. It's meeting great people. It's people like you, Jeff.
Oh, thank you.
And so, and then as far as a teacher, I've learned a lot, and it's my job to then pass that back on to people, right? So you talk about even culture at our office. We have a culture of there's usually somebody ahead of you, and there's usually somebody behind you. There's somebody that's pulling me up, and it's my job to come for the person behind me and pull them up as well. And I think what we do is we hire leaders at our organization, and that's really what a leader does. And if you look at what's happening in a lot of companies today in organizations, it's just a breakdown of leadership from the top down. And so when we talk about the quiet quitting and we talk about the culture, and I touched on the 9 to 5, man, the leaders that know how to lead people, that are real leaders, I think in the next 8 to 10 years, we're going to see, it's not going to be a competition of companies. I think you're going to see some companies dominate, you know?
Roy, we're almost out of time. So
Okay.
what would you like to leave people with?
Look, the other thing that I do is I make short LinkedIn videos. We're on a video today. And so part of what I want to do is always provide value to the people that I meet. And so rather than me putting up a picture of me at a happy hour, which I don't know how that provides any value, it takes someone 20 years to get knowledge. It takes them 2 years to write a book, and it takes me over 2 hours to read. And what I'm going to do is in 2 minutes, I'm going to give you an overview of what that book is. So every single time that I connect with my audience or my clients, I want to give them something in 2 minutes that's going to enrich their lives. In some ways, people spent 20 plus years learning.
Wow. Roy, brilliant. We're going to have you back. We're going to end with the website, which is cresa.com. And from that website, you can navigate to the Dallas page. Roy, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff.
And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.